All right, then we will get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Another Ticket Training Tuesday. If this is your first time, welcome. Basically, this is a weekly series that we do. We take various ticket-related topics and do quick deep dive sessions and talk about those at a high level, and then go through a demo to see things in action. And for today, we will be talking all about Power Automate tasks. And this is kind of building off of last week's session, where Justin went through life cycles in depth. Very good session there. If you haven't seen that, I encourage you to go back and watch that to kind of get caught up on all the neat things you can do within a life cycle. And then we are going to branch out today and talk about Power Automate tasks specifically within phases of the lifecycle in Tikit. And our agenda quickly, welcome. I'll have a few housekeeping items to cover, and then we'll talk a little bit about Power Automate tasks before we get into the demo. So begin, hi, my name is Ben Anderson. I'm a Tikit and Cyrusson customer success consultant, and I provide professional services across all of our products. Okay, those resources we talked about before the meeting began. I will throw these in the chat so everyone has them available. The first of which is the email address. This is our main Tikit email address, help@tikit.ai. So all things Tikit related, feel free to use that email address to get in contact with us. Any questions or feedback you have, any sort of inquiries around Tikit, feel free to reach out to us. If you want to provide feedback on this session, on these sessions specifically, or maybe something you want to see in future sessions, again, we'd love to hear from you. Just let us know at that email address. And second is a link to the KB article for Ticket Training Tuesdays, and this will be just a digest of all the previous sessions we've had and links to the YouTube recordings. So if you want to go back and have a refresher on those, or if you missed a session, like to go back and review those, just keep an eye there. And we should also have upcoming sessions as well. Okay, so now I think we can get into today's topic, which is all about Power Automate tasks. A few points to note. I think the first of which being just the flexibility with Power Automate in general. If you've used it at all before, you know it's very powerful, can do all sorts of cool things around automations and working with not only Microsoft services and Tikit, but any external systems via the over 1,000 connectors at this point. You can do pretty much anything you can imagine. So when we bring in the ability to use Power Automate within Tikit, I mean that provides for very powerful tools for accomplishing all sorts of neat things around our business processes. So really, possibilities are endless. And even if there's not a connector, just know that we can still fall back to the traditional way of using API requests to do even more things within Power Automate. So that's all possible within Tikit. Point number two, lifecycle driven. I just wanted to point out that there's a couple different ways. I guess you think about how we can use Power Automate flows alongside Tikit. Today, we're going to be talking about flows that are initiated via a lifecycle phase. So it should sound familiar if you saw the previous week's recording. But just know that we're not limited to triggering a flow just via a lifecycle phase. We can actually run flows kind of in tandem with Tikit. One example being you might have a flow that runs every time a ticket's created. And that would be triggered not within a life cycle, but just when the ticket is created, and you might do some evaluation of that ticket to decide, what to do with it. all sorts of things. And that's just one of many examples, but just know today we're going to be focusing in on life cycles. And then branching. Justin did an excellent job last week talking about all the different ways to use branching within a life cycle, depending on the outcomes of your typical life cycle phase tasks and approvals. Just know we have a lot of flexibility with the outcome of our flows as well by putting conditions on the statuses of those Power Automate flows. We can then tell Tikit to do different things, to jump around to different phases, to transition in lots of different ways depending on the life cycle, and really add some resiliency in there to have the outcome we want. So know that. Next, requirements. There's no few requirements if you're looking to use Power Automate with Tikit. This does require the account used to create the flow should have a premium license, and that is not our requirement. That's a Microsoft requirement that all third-party connectors are premium. Of course, we would give that to you for free if we could, but just know that you can create flows without a premium, but it won't let you enable those unless you have that premium status on the account. And also just bear in mind the credentials you're going to be using whenever you sign into the connector. It needs to align with the action you're trying to perform within Power Automate. That account would need to have the appropriate permissions to do what you need it to do. In most cases, using an admin account for Power Automate flows is probably easiest. Okay. I didn't say before, but if you have any questions at any point, just feel free to interrupt, raise your hand, throw a message in the chat, come off mute. If there's any questions now, I'll just give a moment before we get into the demo. Any questions at this point? Okay. And I am going to hop over to my Tikit environment. Okay, hopefully everyone can see that. And okay, so today we're going to, again, build off of the theme from previous sessions. They were talking a lot about onboarding and defining a life cycle around that process. And I went with that, and I came up with some Power Automate tasks that can support some common onboarding processes. Obviously, this is kind of a simplified demonstration, but hopefully it gives you some ideas and it gets the creative juices flowing. The sort of things you can do, not only for onboarding, but any business process, and how to incorporate that into your life cycle phases. So here I have a life cycle for onboarding, and I have this set up because that would take quite a while to do that in real time. I have this set up with a template and a custom form. So this life cycle is related to the template. So of course we can initiate this life cycle by creating a ticket, whether that be via the Tikit virtual agent or within the Tikit web AI. So first up, Tikit comes in. We'll go through this and then I'll do a demo of how this flows once someone puts in that request. But we'll go through the phases here. First of which is update Tikit, and there we go. Tikit says, so where's the Power Automate task? So first of which, we have no tasks or approvals. This is just using a Power Automate task, and it's going to take the custom form answers from a ticket, and it's going to update the ticket title. I like to do this just because by default, the ticket title will match that of the prompt that the user puts in to initiate the ticket virtual agent form response. And this will set it to something a little more consistent. And I'll show you the flow once we get through this portion. So after that, we have approvals. I would think that most onboarding and new employees, there's probably some sort of approval in there somewhere. So just to demonstrate, I have just a normal lifecycle phase approval set for myself, so I can approve that. And then it will transition to the next phase. It'd be good to demonstrate creating intro account as part of the onboarding process. And here again, we're using a Power Automate task to do that. We will create the intro account. And then once that succeeds, we'll do one more thing, which is, if applicable, add the newly created user to a Microsoft team. So that's just kind of overview of this particular life cycle. And I'm going to switch over to Power Automate, and we can look at each of these specifically and what they're doing. Switch that update ticket, Power Automate task. I will say, just pro tip, I like to keep things kind of tidy with the naming conventions. So if you have something that works for you, once you start developing a lot of flows, it can be hard to see at a glance what type of flows they are. So I typically do it something like so, coming from ticket to Power Automate task, and specifically we're updating a ticket. So if we drill into that, we can quickly go through the steps. When this Power Automate flow becomes active via that phase in the life cycle, this will trigger. We're going to get the ticket in question. We're going to do parse JSON and grab the custom form response. I already have that set up here. So we're going to get those custom form answers from the onboarding request, and then we can work with those later. We're going to update the ticket. And this, again, is another ticket action via the ticket connector. And then we're going to set the title to create new user hyphen and first name, last name. And very important part of working with Power Automate task, know that you have to set the status at the end. So here, very, very simple example. I'm just setting the task to succeed it if it gets to this point, but know that you can do additional logic to say when something fails or it's not successful. We can set different statuses based on different conditions, which would dictate how the transitions back in our life cycle would transition to different phases. So you can get really specific about how your life cycle flows, and if it needs to go back to a previous phase, all that sort of thing. Justin demonstrated that in the last session of all the different ways you can do branching and manipulate the transitions between phases. So just know that one's easy to miss, but we do need to put that in there that the task succeeded at this point. That's it for that one. What was next? Ignore that one for just a moment. We're going to create that intro account. And same deal when this Power Automate task becomes active, get the ticket details, parse those answers. And now we're just going to create that user. Here you can see an example of how that might be set up. So create that user, and then we're going to update the task. So easy. And then lastly, for that one, add to a Microsoft team. So you might have saw in my parse JSON answers, I have a field called is analyst. If they say yes, of course, this is just an example. We will add them to a support team. So you could expand on that, add all sorts of conditions in that intake form to decide what type of employee they are and what attributes they might have within tenant and within ticket. So just a simple example of how we might decide if that user belongs in the support group. So if we choose yes, then they will get moved to that team. You notice a little bit of a delay here. We need a little time after that account is created before it will allow us to move that account into a team. That's why you see a delay action there. And okay, so that was probably a lot. Any questions at this point before I actually show you all this in action? Nope. Okay, well, I will switch over to another user and this tenant, Henrietta, and we are going to request a new employee be added, and it will follow that lifecycle process. Just engage with Ticket Virtual Agent, and we should get that form back, which we did. So here you can see where the custom form properties from the Power Automate flows this is where those are coming from. So we pick a name, John Doe, and we're going to say is an analyst. Submit, and if you remember, I put an approval stage in the lifecycle that I would need to approve. So once that goes through, I should be able to switch back my account and expect an approval to come in very soon. Yeah. Well, let's just take a look at the ticket, see where it's at. Okay, so new employee. So that first flow has not ran yet. Not started. Typically does not take long for that to begin. Let's just go look at the flow. Well, not real sure there. I did do some quick adjustments right before we started. Let's make sure everything is associated. Here we're just defining that life cycle and phase. Let's save that. I'm just going to try that again. Sorry, you all. Get this going. Any colleagues on? Have we seen any issues here. This was just working before the session started. Mm. Oh, apologies. Sure why this isn't starting. Jeff, are you with us?
I'm here.
You following?
I'm following, but I'm not. Hey, everyone, by the way.
Yeah.
I think you're just being struck by those demo gods.
It just sounds
Yeah.
like Murphy. Murphy kicked in. No
Yeah.
worries. Happens to me too.
Those
Sure
life
does.
cycles and phases look wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this was all there.
Reset that. You're gonna have to kick off a new one, I think, Ben.
Reset.
No, that's applied. You might have to kick off a new ticket.
Yep, yeah, I did that once. There it is. Oh, succeeded.
And it has created the.
Hopefully they're
ticket
not all
titles
like
changed.
that. Hopefully I don't have to reassociate all of them. Let's see. Ah, well, I got the approval. Okay. We had to just reassociate that with the life cycle. All right, so we'll approve that and hopefully it just keeps going. I know we are running short on time with all of that. Okay, so it's at creating the account, go and set flow. All right, so it succeeded. Good. Just better refresh and see that. Okay. Created the account, add a sport team. That's going to take just a minute because of that delay, but we can confirm that the account was created here over in our admin center. We can look at all those users and we should see a John Doe, which we do. Okay, so that worked. Follow this last flow. I believe I had a 1 minute delay, so I think this will finish there it goes, any second. Says it's been added to that sport team, so I'll just go check that team. We should see John Doe added there. Okay, so that worked. Okay, hopefully that was clear. Despite the trouble getting that to kick off, I just had to reassociate and save the flow, so I must have failed to do that before we started. after my changes, but that's what that process would look like. And I thought just to finish up, we only have a few minutes left. I wanted to add an additional flow just so you can see that process. And the idea is to, instead of getting an approval from me, to make that dynamic and hopefully get the requester's manager to approve. So that's what we're going to try to do very quickly. We'll go into that life cycle, get approval, add a Power Automate task. I think add manager approval. Add. So that easy, just to add the Power Automate task there within the lifecycle phase, and then we can go back to Power Automate. If you hadn't created it already, we could create one from scratch, but again, I just did this ahead of time and created another flow here, which again, we would need to kind of reassociate that with the correct lifecycle and phase. So onboarding, that was the get approval phase that Power Automate task was a part of. And then, did I save it? Gotta save that first. Reassociate. And there. We'll just go through this. We won't go through the whole demo process again, but just to see what it's doing. Again, it's getting the ticket properties. It's getting the account for the requester. And then we're going to reach out and get that account manager. And in this case, would be Lee. If Henrietta were to do that request again, when it gets to that approval phase, it will get Henrietta's manager, which is Lee, and set Lee as the approver in that step. And then first have to get that approval, and then we would update the approval. I know it says for each, but there's really just one here. So it would return one, it would update that approval with the manager's email address, and then we would report a success for that PA task. And then we were to look ticket again. I just wanted to highlight, I know that ticket is closed by now, but it did update the title as well, like that the first phase in the life cycle did. But if we were to run this again with that addition for that phase, then this approval would be set to Lee to do the approval instead of myself. So just an example of how you can make that a little more dynamic. So, okay, we're pretty much at time. Hopefully that was helpful, beneficial. I didn't go too fast. If you have any questions, would love to hear them. Hearing none, I think that concludes today's session. Right on time. Sorry for the issues there for a minute, but I think we overcome them. You see how to reassociate a task to the life cycle. Thank you all for joining, and be sure to check back next week for another session. Take care, everyone.
Ben, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
No
Hope that
problem.
was helpful. Yeah. Take care, everyone.
Have a great week.
You too. Bye-bye.